2023 has become a banner year for handheld gaming PCs. Already this year, we've gotten updates from companies like Neo and GPD, and earlier this spring, Asus joined the fray with the ROG Ally. But now at IFA, Lenovo is joining the scrum with this, the Legion Go. So let's get into it. Now, if you've seen other gaming handheld PCs, you'll probably be familiar with the Legion Go's basic design, except that Lenovo seems to be leaning onto the more premium side of things, most notably with this display, which is an 8.8-inch QHD Plus display with a 2560 by 1600 resolution and a 144 Hz refresh rate. Now, you might not be able to take advantage of that refresh rate in every single game, especially newer, more AAA titles, but it's nice to see. And then on the sides, you have a pretty familiar Xbox-style layout for the joystick, with a D-pad, a couple of joysticks, face buttons. But one interesting change is that there is a single touchpad down here, and as you can see, I can use that to move the cursor around in Windows. That's pretty nice because you can't move the cursor with the joysticks, so it's nice to be able to have something to navigate Windows, because this is a Windows handheld and there's no special tuning for the base OS. That said, while it's not available just yet, Lenovo says they are going to work on some sort of launcher so that it should be easier to get into games, adjust settings, and stuff like that. Now, if we flip the Legion Go around to its back, you can see we have a bunch of paddles in back, your standard shoulder buttons, and even there's a little jog dial over here, which I'm not entirely sure what that's for, but hey, I'm always going to be down for it. The one interesting thing is that unlike the ROG Ally, if you'll see there's some switches back here, which means you can, if we flip this around again, you can detach the controllers. And if you press it back, they kind of just come off just like that. Now, I should mention, this is a pre-production device. So if you look at some of the detailing, like on the shoulder buttons here, you can see the one on the right has sort of a metallic finish, while the one on the left is just black plastic. Eventually, when this comes out, sometime in October, these will be metallic on both sides. But just trying to frame that for you, this is a very pre-production device with pre-production software. Now, another nice feature is that if you flip it around, you can see there's a kickstand in back, so you can prop up the Legion Go just like a Nintendo Switch. And then if you look around the body of the machine, you can see there's support for micro SD card storage, which is really nice. And there's not one, but two USB 4 ports. There's one on the top right here, and then there's another on the bottom right here. And that's just really nice because if you want to plug in peripherals, you have a little bit more option to play around with. Elsewhere along the top, you have buttons for volume up and down, pretty simple, and some fans and a RGB power button. You'll also notice that there is some RGB lighting behind the joysticks as well. And of course, there's also a 3.5mm audio jack, which is always nice to see. The Legion Go has one really interesting party trick, and if I can put one of these back on here, if I go in the included carrying case, which is another thing that's really nice to see because rivals like the ROG Ally don't come with a case, you can also do what Lenovo calls FPS mode. And so if I take the right joystick, and you'll see there's a switch down and bottom, I can turn it off or on to FPS mode. And then I can arrange it in this little puck here, and then suddenly I have a way to control the mouse cursor. Now, this is designed primarily for FPS games as another control method. And I'm not entirely sure I love it, but it's nice to have more options. And so if I move the joystick around on the table like this, I can double click on the Windows button and then get apps. But primarily, this is going to be used in FPS games. In terms of specs, we're looking at stuff that's pretty similar to the Asus ROG Ally. That includes an AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and 512 gigs of base storage. You also get a 49.2 watt-hour battery with rapid charging and Wi-Fi 6E. Now, one of the biggest differences between the Legion Go and the ROG Ally is its general size and weight. Not only does it have a larger 8.8-inch screen, it also weighs 1.5 pounds, which is a little bit heavier than the 1.3-pound ROG Ally. Another interesting departure from the ROG Ally is that Lenovo is using Hall effect sensors in the joysticks, which means you don't have to worry about stuff like dead zones or the joysticks drifting after prolonged use. That said, because we're using a pre-production version, this does feel a little janky, but hopefully Lenovo can iron out some of those things before launch. So one of the issues I'm noticing is that compared to something like Nintendo Switch, getting these joysticks off isn't super smooth. You press the button and I feel like I have to wrestle with it a little bit to make it pop off. That said, I think that is something you can improve with over time with a little bit of practice. Now, aside from the Lenovo Legion Go, Lenovo is also introducing a new flagship gaming laptop called the Lenovo Legion 9i. It's got pretty much all the specs you could ask for in a big, powerful gaming PC, with a 16-inch display up to an Intel Core i9 processor. The base GPU is an NVIDIA RTX 4080, though it can go up to a 4090 if you want. You get 32 gigs of RAM standard and up to 2 terabytes of storage. Now, what's interesting is that on other Legion gaming laptops, Lenovo has kind of split the line between Slim and Pro versions, but they say for the Legion 9i, they're doing away with that because this thing is slim and powerful all in the same machine. Now, back to Legion Go. Not only is it great to have more competitors in the handheld gaming PC space, I really like that Lenovo is putting its own twist on the formula. So you get those detachable controllers, kind of like a Nintendo Switch, but you also get a gorgeous 8.8-inch 144Hz display. And while I still kind of question how useful Lenovo's weird FPS controller gaming setup is going to be, hey, at least they're trying something out. But what might be the best part is that Lenovo is going to be really aggressive with pricing, with the Legion Go starting at $699. That's the same price as the Asus ROG Ally, and so we're going to get some really tight competition among these new handheld gaming PCs. Now, hopefully Lenovo can iron out some of those pre-production issues that we saw earlier today, but even so, I'm really looking forward to checking this thing out when it comes out sometime in late October.